Okay, so capstone, Friday the 20th. Probably the biggest adjustment is going to be in the fact that we won't have as much hands-on right on campus getting things ready for next year. But they're still, in terms of actually, except for implementing, right? Won't be able to implement, quite as much as we'd like to do. There's still a number of things we can do. So we reviewed the current status. Let me use a different color here. You stand out a little better. Review the current status. Course review, any little adjustments we might make, and then tasks for the day. Okay? Yeah, so I was in early, so I had the students tell me when they finally were online. Okay, so let me do a little adjustment here. Okay. So I talked a little bit about security, what areas, who, okay. Talked about stakeholders, guests, students, we talked about students, instructors, and guests. The security policy has a long ways to go. I noticed they used, I forget, it was like Weber University or we used some university as an example, but we didn't make enough decent adjustments. It was too much of a copy. You can use the idea from other locations, but we have to actually, the policies actually have to match what we're doing in the academic IT. I don't know if you can hear that, but my phone just went off. Anyway, so and then in another part where I asked about services, I was thinking we're going to have DHCP for either devices, our devices that are connected, or the students' devices and so forth. Probably offer Wi-Fi to the students, a DNS server, Active Directory to log in, and also we're going to give the students storage and so forth. What services do they expect, in a client server environment that we're going to supply for the students and the instructors, instructors, and guests. Right over here. Okay, we've got quite a few slides to go over. So then asset management. It's funny how here we are. And repeat this. Asset management. And right down here. We talked about what we would want on the tags. And we would get tags, and these tags would be the academic tags, and the college would still put on tags. So when we get new property, we'd have the college put their tags on the back, and these tags would be more towards the front. They would have some kind of a barcode, and then a message here, maybe this one here, and then we can use the software that Metalcraft is willing to let us test. We can use that to read these. And in fact, all the students could have them on their phones, the IT students, so they could monitor the equipment and keep track and do some editing as we move it and use it and set it up. Okay, so talked a little bit about the logical diagram. Talked about networking and addressing, and then we talked about devices. Okay, in terms of how that would look, and I think we have a good start, but a really good start. So we talked about what it should look like in the future, intermediate devices and end devices, and the addressing and so forth. So we're making progress there. I talked about the current design. We got a firewall, we got two DMZs, and then the internal network. Okay, in which we have our Active Directory and our servers and our storage and so forth. And then from the firewall, we're connected out to our internet service provider, which is the Iowa Communications Network. And I also talked a little bit about our current addressing, the 31 addressing we're using for the internal network. Right here, we also have a 20, 172.20 network in there that we used to use to keep traffic away from our regular servers with access lists, but we could probably still keep that, but that wouldn't be as necessary anymore once we get the DMZs set up the way we want those to work. So we have this addressing one of the DMZs and this addressing on the other one. Okay. Okay. So classrooms, right? 229, 216. We got a catalyst switch in the rack that's going to service both of those classrooms. We'll be able to run 3 lines to the firewall. And then we have levels of security, 100, 50, 60 for the different, these two DMZs and the internal network, 0 on the outside network. Okay, so we got the internal, and down here we got the DMZs. This is an AS5520 that's managing this work for us right here. Okay, so we could run those in here, and then coming out to the rooms, we might be able to use some ether channel depending on how many lines we have, but those VLANs then are set up with a trunk, and so on that trunk we can actually trunk these two. We can actually trunk any of these 3 to those rooms. So in the rooms we could have our internal network. In fact, I could just let me say the internal network. We can have our connections for the internal network, and then we can have connections for one of the DMZs, and then maybe another of the DMZs. And you could have that same scenario on all the devices. So when the traffic